We live in a world that never stops offering more. More to buy, more to scroll, more to numb, and more to escape. Until the wanting becomes normal and stopping feels impossible.
And somehow, the harder we chase it, the more burnt out, anxious, addicted and disconnected we become.
This is More, a podcast hosted by people with lived experience of addiction, mental health issues, trauma, and neurodiversity, where the pursuit of more led us to rock bottom and has since led us to finding alternative ways to live.
Each week we have raw, honest conversations with each other and our guests, grounded in lived experience, about what the chase takes from us and what's possible when you stop running.
Through these conversations, we hear a diverse collection of stories and experiences from those who have found an alternative way to exist in the world.
These conversations are recorded in a single take, with no editing, so what you hear is real and unfiltered. Some names and places may be changed in order to protect those sharing their stories.
Welcome to More.
Hi guys, Rudy here. Just wanted to say welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is part 2 of a conversation of Toby's story that we felt just needed a little bit more space. We're picking up right where we left off, and if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I'd suggest starting there. And if you have, thank you for staying with it. Let's continue.
I love anything mechanical, but God, it's a hard job unless you got your own business.
And and I guess, you know, at that point, was there anything like in your mind that, oh, it might, because, you know, for me, I just thought this is what everyone does. Like,
yeah.
There was never a question of addiction.
No, never even heard of it.
And did you think that gave you anything positive before it started to become a negative?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, just that ignorance.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, so an addict to me, and right up until I come into recovery, is somebody street homeless, no teeth.
Yeah.
You know, begging for some money to go and spend on crack, heroin, meth.
And I guess part of the podcast and all of the other recovery podcasts out there is, you know, that remains the stigma for a lot of people's perspective on an addict.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, we're trying to break that stigma.
Yeah, and hopefully through this sort of share of mine, you'll be able to understand, you know, when I came into like the beginning of the end properly, I was kind of a normal dude, really, outwardly, you know. I probably wasn't far off that, but, you know, I've been an addict for a long time. So yeah, I was bored. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I didn't understand it at the time, but the only thing I got joy out of was running. Then I'm not from a military background or anything. Well, my dad's dad was a para, so I've got that. But like I said, you know, I didn't really know my dad. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, 13, me and my dad sort of parted ways. So yeah, sort of 20 years old, lost, feeling like going absolutely nowhere. I seen a mate of mine who I hadn't seen for sort of ages. He was SAS, and we caught up, we went out, and sort of, you know, people in the military, there's kind of an aura around them anyway, you know, in certain arms of the military. You know, you come back tanned, stacked, essence, massive cock probably, I don't know. There was kind of this, like, he got out of here.
An aura.
Yeah, aura about him. And he's a good dude. He was a fucking nut job. Still is. Complete addict.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had a catch up, and he was like, yeah, no, so I've gone. He'd come out of the military since last time I seen him, and he was doing maritime security. And I was sort of just like, I'm fucking sick of it around here. And he was like, mate, join the fucking military. He's like, you're in fucking great shape. You know, you've got plenty of resilience. You'll be fine. He's like, but whatever you do, don't join the paras. Because obviously that was his path. He was like, I've been working on a maritime and I'm the only ex-para in a group of ex-Marines. He's like, join the Marines. He said, they're great guys. He said, you would fit right in. You know, they're like thinking soldiers, you know, positive mental attitude. It's not all just about being, you know, a hard nut and all that sort of thing. So I did it. I'm fucking literally the next week, I was like, fuck, I found myself in an AFCO. I started the process. You know, you've just heard what my mum's like. You can imagine how that went down. Everyone was like, what? There was another mate of mine at the time who had thought the same thing. And I got a lot of steering from him as well, because he was like, you know, yeah, he's right. Yeah, Marines and stuff. So, yeah, did that. Went through the rigmarole that is that. I'll save everyone the boring story that is
intense training.
Yeah. So to get in, it takes about a year of sort of tests and medicals, interviews, aptitude tests, and whatever, pre-joining fitness tests, and then you have to do like a potential Royal Marines course. And then if you get through all of that without any flags, anything, whatever, potential Royal Marines course, then they might invite you back to start training. Then training's 9 months. And so, yeah, it took me about a year to get to the point where I started training, 9 months. I went through from start to finish. 60 of us started, 12 of us went through originals. You know, it's hard. You don't need me to tell you that. Plenty of knowledge out there. But I loved it. When I got the acceptance in to start training, I burnt all my shit.
What did that feel like, getting the acceptance? Did you feel like you had some purpose?
Yeah, it did. I was like, fuck, I can do this, and I can be, you know, because that's, and now I know that's kind of like what I've always wanted. It's just this sort of like, just to fit in, just this thing. And that's what they promise you, you know. It's like 99% need not apply, because it's very, very hard, and only a certain type and group of people make it through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're my people. Yeah. So yeah, started training, burnt all my stuff, ended relationship, gave myself nothing to go back to, so I couldn't give up. By this point, my mum had moved abroad. I had a few bits of fat cousins and uncle in the UK, and yeah, friends. So I went for it, blah, 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 training. Loved it. You know, hard, but by that point, that was my safe place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being up against it, being cold, being fucking tired, you know.
In a different survival mode.
Yeah, it's just like, this is my comfy place.
Yeah.
That's okay, I can do this. You know, being woken up.
Yeah.
Or having to wake up, you know, not having to go to sleep properly, sleeping with one eye open. All of these weird little things that my brain was like, oh.
And I guess, you know, you'd had to stop using.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it was a way out of it. So yeah, put the drugs down. Yeah. 0 tolerance in the military, which was great. And again, with hindsight, I know now that was a roadblock.
Yeah.
And what I did was what's known as sort of like cross-addicting to alcohol, of which I'd been drinking again since I was really young. But in the military, it's openly encouraged as a way to join guys together.
Yeah, the bonding
side of it, the passing time side of it, the ritualistic kind of, you know, like actual military. God, what's the word? You know, like to the Queen and
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that actual drink. So like if through every aspect of life there, drinking is encouraged. So yeah, in training, you get on it plenty, but not all the time because you're very busy, but you're completely immersed in this world. So, I obsessed with that and I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
I did. I fucking loved it. And I was very fortunate to have a great training team and all that sort of thing. So then came, passed out, unit life, drinking. Yeah.
And tabbing, still smoking.
Oh, mate. Yeah. So I, before joining up, literally for my pre-joining fitness test, I was like, I'm gonna put the tabs down because it's ninja.
Yeah.
As soon as I got into training and got out there, freezing cold, like I haven't slept for a few days, and you watch someone spark up a cigarette, that like warm, dry cigarette, that glow, it's like, gives a fuck.
Chirping.
Field tabbing. Yeah. And then, just picked that straight back up and tabbed flat out since. Yeah. So the drinking culture in the military, huge. And I made the most of it. Definitely. I got into trouble multiple times because of it and was very lucky multiple times that I had the people around me I had around me when I got into trouble for these things. I won't get into war stories, but yeah. My drinking went through the roof. I mean, I lived on camp because I had no home or whatever. So when everyone went home for summer holidays or Christmas or whatever, predominantly I would just stay on camp. And we're called camp orphans. And there'd be a lot of us there. And we would just get up and drink pints of gin and tonic for breakfast, drink all day, and go out, drink all night.
And when you're in that culture, though, you still don't realise you've got a problem because it's all around you as well, isn't it? I think that's the one thing that I struggled with, was like, how can I be? Because everyone who I hang out with, we're all doing it.
And like, I mean, it's great if you can do it and not be a problem. But like, and you're like super healthy because you're cracking loads of fizz and running. I'm do a 10-mile run.
Yeah.
Blowing out my ass, 2 hours sleep. Still pissed as fuck, throwing up everywhere. Still crack it out.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me. I'm sound. I'm good in the field. I'm good on the piss. I'm good in bed. The triangle.
The marine triangle.
I hope no bootlegs listen to this. No, jokes. So drinking became a problem for me in regards to consequences multiple times.
And what the drinking was just cultural drinking then? It wasn't to know more to cope or, do you...
Yeah, so I... confidence.
Yeah.
For me, mate, you stick a couple of beers in me, fucking... I am a different person.
Yeah.
I could talk the back legs off a donkey, women, guys, chat, whatever. I could go on and on about stories, mate. Honestly, I could, and we will one day.
Yeah.
But like, I've pretended to be a band scout for MTV, jug band gig. I ended up being at many years ago, pissed up, and they believe me. You know what I mean? Because it relieves all my insecurities. It relieves all that tension. It quietens the noise I have in my brain constantly. I can concentrate's not the word, but I can just fucking talk shit. Yeah. And that was the big thing for me. Yeah. Just being comfortable in my own skin with alcohol. Never much enjoyed a hangover. So, yeah, but loved it. Loved being in the military. Loved living that lifestyle. It's never land. You never have to grow up. Very rarely consequences. Considering, and it was It was brilliant. I struggled in a lot of places in the military. I know now a lot of my neurodivergence, but I did still love it. It was a real sense of family, which I never really had properly. You know, like proper father figures, and then almost like, you know, with the hierarchy, a granddad figure.
Yeah.
And brothers, and, you know, and you do anything for each other.
Mm.
So that was amazing. And I had a home with it. You know, I had somewhere to call mine.
In camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you move around a lot. So, but it was, you know, it was, you know, a home. There was food available.
Secure base.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I could always return to no matter what. And then, yeah, you know, your career that, you know, for me, my work is obsession. Always has been, sort of probably always will be. I manage that now. You know, it's a fine line between addictive traits and passion.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's something I was passionate about, you know, and it's your whole life. It isn't just like you're not a carpenter and you go home and whatever.
And how long were you in the Marines?
So I passed out in 2012 and was medically discharged in 2019. So, you know, if you count training, some people count training, some don't, I don't know, whatever, 8, 9 years, something like that.
The best part of a decade.
Yeah, long enough for the next bit to break me.
Yeah.
Which is where I consider the beginning of the end.
Yeah, and I think we've discussed before, you know, you feel like you had a long process to rock bottom and bottoming them out. And is that the start? Leaving the military was the start, the catalyst?
100%.
Yeah.
This is when everything stopped being fun, really. So I got injured, and then when you get injured in the military, you get downgraded. So you have specific things saying you can't do this, that, the other, or whatever. A lot of stigma comes with that, especially in the part of the military I was in, because, you know, frontline.
Is it a lot similar to when you see the movies and like in the NYPD when the detective gets shot on duty and then he's in the basement just looking after the evidence in the cage.
Yeah.
And it's soul just and everyone's taking the piss out of him.
It's like that times a billion.
Yeah.
Oh, how it fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so downgraded, so I couldn't do certain stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'd had a fucking amazing career up until this point. You know, I'd loved every minute of it. There's plenty of shit stuff in the military, but generally speaking, you know, there's nowhere I would have done any of half as much as what I'd done anywhere else. So I was injured, but it happens quite a lot. But then the injury didn't heal. So I was downgraded a bit longer and it still didn't heal. Whereas usually you end up sort of back at it. And when you've been downgraded 4 times in a row, which is a year, they send you to a medical board. I don't know that I need to go into all of this too much, but essentially what happened was I was medically discharged. And it was at a time in my life where, so throughout that, you know, I knew this, I could see this coming.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing loads of treatments and MRIs and stuff. And, you know, you kind of get the vibe from what's going on that this isn't something that's just going to be healed in a couple of weeks. So I'd started self-medicating at this point, as well as actual medication. I started acting out quite a lot. I'd started isolating. I lived in a single accommodation room on camp. I only really used to leave it to go to work at this point.
Feeling quite depressed as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah, I could it did feel like the world was closing in on me.
And how old were you then?
I would have been like 29.
So, yeah.
But like, still like, no, you know, it'll be all right. PMA. Positive mental attitude. living in a lot of pain at this point. So a daily occurrence of pain over that sort of time had taken its toll on me mentally. The stigma, the isolation, self-medicating, and then, found out that I was being discharged and I would lose everything. My home,
Career,
my family, my career that I'd invested everything into. All my friends, and that was the point at which, it kind of snapped. I think since then, I feel like I've kind of been watching my life through eye-shaped holes on the horizon, which is shit. The girl who I had been sort of dating had just fallen pregnant. So I didn't get a chance to deal with it. So I had to find a house, set up a business, get a job. What I did before I went into the military, I was kind of set up doing similar to that, building work or whatever, and just had to cuff it.
And do you think you've had, since coming into recovery, you've had time to grieve?
Yeah, that's another thing I do a lot of work around. Yeah. Loss. Yeah, something that I famously don't deal with well.
Yeah.
Now I can just be like, yeah, bye.
Yeah. It's part of the autism.
Yeah. But you have to deal with loss because it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hardly knew the lady who, was pregnant. It was all very stressful, had to provide. Turns out we weren't the best matched. I was abandoned by my father and didn't have a normal upbringing and could resonate with the damage that had caused me. So decided just to keep my head down and get on with it for the sake of my child. I didn't want them growing up in a broken home, because it really hurt me to think of that,
Yeah.
That's, a huge part of my life is growing up with so much missing.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. Mistake number 1. Or number 9. Yeah. Then went to work doing something that exacerbated my injury. So again, living in chronic pain is the only way I can describe it, is it rots your brain.
Yeah.
It is exhausting.
I can resonate there.
Yeah.
My own injuries.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
It steals your soul.
Yeah, it is the worst. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to interact. You don't want to think. You don't want to talk about it. Fuck it. All you want to do is get rid of it.
Yeah.
Any means necessary. And for me, being, the way I am, it's escapism, fantasy, be that with alcohol, drugs, pornography, sex, anything, all the 7 deadly sins, just to take me out of self. And then, the flip side of that is not wanting to be with self, because sitting alone in a room on your own in fucking chronic pain, the only thing you can think about is bad shit.
Yeah.
And it's fucking horrible. That really took its toll on me. So then, the pregnancy was traumatic as well, because my daughter's mother had sort of like issues. She was told she'd never have kids. So there's loads of scans and, loads of like, don't get your hopes up right until the end. It was a really traumatic time, and loads of other little things that happened in around it. And I just wasn't there. I wasn't there. When my daughter cried. When my daughter was born, I pretended to cry.
Yeah.
I fucking pretended.
Were you using them as well again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't feel anything. I've my daughter was born in front of my eyes and I felt nothing.
Yeah.
I just went to work. I was just like, I just get her dressed. I'm just in the zone. I just wasn't there. And, really hadn't been for a while, and then haven't been after. So, yeah, I did make a couple of little notes too. So, so after my daughter was born, reached out to my dad. I'm a dad now.
How did that go?
I get it. It was during COVID, another thing that was another straw that broke my back. It was good. He's got his own shit. Fuck, come from a history of fucking admin. His mum died when he was 9, I think 9. So he's got his own fucking battles. Doesn't really acknowledge that he has ever done any wrong. Still kind of maintains that I should have reached out to him sooner.
Guess that's part you just have to accept.
Yeah, and I'm working on that, mate.
Yeah. It's hard. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But that's where accepting that we can't expect people to change.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest. I think that's one of the hardest things for me.
Yeah, it is. You can't change, but you can only change yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the journey we're on, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is what it is. Ironically, since I came into recovery, I let him know that I'd been not very well. Hang on, someone at the door. So, yeah, just get your post sound. Yeah, so I let my dad know that I'd not been very well, and he, sort of give me a little bit of a put arm around me, and then, I haven't really spoken to him since. And that was, over a year ago. So there's that. Yeah, so basically, I was living in a way that was then bad for me. In a lot of ways, I was full of resent in a relationship that I didn't want to be in. I was in pain every day. I still suffered with flashbacks from, way back when I was a kid. Still had nightmares. I still, basically had PTSD, I guess. And life had just gotten a whole lot worse. This shining jewel that was my daughter in the middle of it, and she is and will forever be my lifeline. She keeps me tethered to this earth now. Yeah, it was a very poisonous, very toxic way to live, and I did that for quite a long time. And outwardly, it was not too bad, but I used to hide, I used to isolate, I had to escape.
Yeah, I think internally what was going on for you?
Yeah, again, I never really acknowledged it. It is only with hindsight. I knew I was broken, but I was just always broken. That's just what I was always like. So, I just felt more broken. But what do you do when you're broken? You just get on with it. So inside, I just felt like I was just getting more and more tired with life. The more I did, the less I got. The harder I fought. I was kind of just, it just felt like I was just slowly slipping away. I was in an area where I didn't know anybody, because I stayed around where my partner was from. So I didn't have any friends, family. It felt like I didn't have anything.
Being isolated.
Yeah.
Even though you're with family. You're isolated.
And, my partner's family are amazing. They're amazing humans. And, but I just don't know how to deal with being in a family. I've never had that family environment. They're offering help and I'm like, no, because that's what you say. We will offer you help because that's what I was taught. That's how I was brought up,
Yeah.
Don't need anybody. So I never knew how to think, and I definitely never knew how to ask for help.
And on that, when did your rock bottom start to? When did that demise start to heat up?
So all of my addictions and issues around everything was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And to me, it sort of erupted in, taking it out on the only person I really could, the person I was around all day, my partner, and blaming her for a lot of it, not understanding my part in, my issues. And so I decided to leave. And that was hard. What's that noise? Postman again. That was hard. That meant that I was now still in a place where I didn't really know anybody properly. I'd made friends through work and bits and bobs, but no like real deep connections, I guess. But without anything, and in a relationship breakup, people take sides as well. And it, when there's kids involved, that was the real beginning of the end. That's when I started to circle the drain. I've heard people talk about addiction like one of them. Do you remember like outside a supermarket they used to have those thing where it's like a clear plastic bubble dome and then inside's like a big funnel.
You put the coins in.
Put the coin in and it goes around the outside, doesn't it? Real slow, and then it gets faster and faster and faster, and then
those things are amazing.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But not in the term of addiction.
No. I think that's the point for me when I started going around the top. I left the family home. I moved into a motorhome on a campsite just down the road. And I had no one to be accountable for. I didn't have the kids, didn't have a partner, didn't have anything. They were the last kind of things keeping me in a straight line. Through big gaps, I slipped into a proper depression in there. Life had sort of got to the point where I had given up, I think. So when leaving the family home, I had a real impact on my daughter, which I've always strived to make sure that she and my son, since, don't have the traumatic stuff that I had to deal with, and seeing how badly it affected my daughter broke me. It put me on my knees. So, yeah, I started spiraling quite quickly, actually. I was still pretending, for the most part, to be okay, people-pleasing, doing what I could for the kids, but...
And running a business.
Yeah. By this point, 2 businesses... I was absolutely fried. I ended up, so, when people start talking about using against their will, this was my first inkling of this. I'd obviously been using for a long, long time. But this is where it got to the point where I couldn't cope without something. When
the pleasure pain balance completely tips to the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other addictions, pornography, definitely, I've had that before, and behavioural sort of stuff, but when it's a substance or, alcohol, it's very real, because you can't function in society like that. So I was, at this point drinking a lot. I remember sort of a couple of weeks before I come into recovery, I actually went back up home to visit some friends. They were putting on a kids' Halloween party, and I tried to get my cousin to get me a grand's worth of Coke, and he was like, "What the fuck do you want that for? We're going to like a kids' Halloween party." And I was like, "What the fuck do you mean? What the fuck do you mean? Are you going to fucking get at me or not?" Do you know what I mean? I could not give a fuck. I do not want to be there.
Yeah.
Sober. Yeah. That should have been a bit of a flag. Then, I drank, and I'd for a long time I'd drank heavily, but through heavy drinking, and I've heard a few people talk about this now, is I'd found my drink of choice that didn't give me a hangover. Readily available, cheap wine. At this point I could do and was doing 3 bottles of wine a day. I just could not face being with myself. I couldn't do it. And living like that not only brings, escape and all that sort of whatever, it brings carnage.
Yep.
You do not act like a normal human being. I made choices that I would never have made otherwise. Loads of stuff I've done in counselling about this, correlation, where my values, my core values, what I believe in and how I think people should act and how I thought I would act always and everything is one path. The way I was conducting myself was another path, and they were getting further and further apart.
And I think one of the things that I learned is that when you're in the chaos, you're living on those borrowed beliefs that you got from your early environment. So
yeah, okay.
From the way that you were brought up, your cultural, from the area you were brought up, they have a different set of values and living, which is the side of the carnage that you've lived in. You have these internal values, but when you're triggered, you go back to the borrowed values.
Yeah.
That's where you can't see a way out because you're just fully in the chaos, and
yeah,
it's quite crazy.
Back to default mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So the kind of only way out of it all that made any sense to me was death. And I've never condoned suicide. It's always been one of those things I've always said, coward's way out or whatever before this moment. My brain's kind of never really been able to contemplate it. And I think that's the autism again, it's just so black or white, it's just not a thing. And then it switched and it was a thing. And I was adamant, when I make my mind up on things, I have this
With black or white thinking.
Yeah. I was like, okay, fuck, well, I'm going to do it. So, I went out, I bought notepads, envelopes, pens, and I wrote my suicide letters to my children, some of my friends and some of my family. And I just, I hadn't really planned the exact day I was going to do it. It was essentially, I kind of wanted to right a couple of wrongs, really. Make sure some people sort of, I don't know, knew it wasn't their fault. Maybe just have a little look to see if there was any last things that might make me change my mind. But yeah, I knew how I was going to do it. I knew where I was going to do it. And yeah, but this was all during that chaotic time. And yeah, I was talking to someone about this the other day. This is how mad it was. Like a couple of days. I can't even remember. Maybe a week. I was people pleasing one of the people I worked for that much. I was like telling them I was going to go and do a job for them, and knowing full well that I wasn't. But I was like, yeah, be there, and don't worry, I'll get on to so and sort them out, and yeah. You know what I mean?
Just a mass.
Just this utter bollocks. I can just remember just going away from there being like, well, don't even need to commit any of that to knowledge, to memory, even.
Yeah.
You know, just like, well, that was just to fuck them off for a bit,
Yeah,
and then I'll just get someone else to sort it out eventually. Yeah, so I was, I imminently, I ended up getting into some trouble. And basically, someone who, a complete stranger really, you know, I got in some trouble, had to move where I was staying and all this sort of thing. And I was like, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Fucking whatever. Go somewhere else, kill myself. I don't give a fuck. Reached out to me. Yes, this complete stranger who I'd sort of bumped into on this campsite I was staying on, reached out to me and said, you know, I hope you're all right. And I caused a bit of trouble for them. And so they need not have, you know, back then I wouldn't have reached out to someone like that. I would have been like, fine, hey, go on.
get lost the campsite.
Yeah. And he was concerned about me.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. No, that's fucking so alien to me. I was like, that really took me out. And I sort of said, you know, I was at that point, I was like, no, I'm okay. but thanks for asking, you know, no.
Do you think that was part of your surrender then? Or did the surrender come after that?
It was at the point where I had literally nothing else to lose. The next step for me was the end.
Yeah.
I was literally just, I remember having conversations with people. They're just talking and I was just like, I cannot wait for you to stop talking so I can just get out of here.
Yeah.
And go. And he said, well, you know, he said a few things. It's on the phone. He said, you know, he was just really calm, really connected, really kind. And he just said, you know, it's you know, it's hard. I can see you're hurting. There's something I do that helps me. If you'd be interested, maybe I can show you what it is. And I thought, well, fuck it, maybe. So I said, yeah. What have I got to lose? And kind of in my head, I was like, what have I got to lose? Because tomorrow is going to be it.
Yeah.
Because I've got to the point now where I've got nothing. I've literally got nothing. You know, even the place that I was kind of calling like inverted commas home is now fucked. You know, that was kind of it. That was somewhere where I could just lie in bed all day and hate myself. And that was kind of gone. So I was like, yeah, screw it. And he took me to a NA meeting. And he sort of explained along the way. So he broke his anonymity. That's what I now know as a 12th step. He reached out to me. I had given up. I had surrendered without knowing it. I went to a meeting and I heard people sharing about my life. I heard people talking about shit that I've always thought about, but have never been able to say it out loud because I've never heard anybody, you know, even utter words along those lines before.
Yeah.
You know, the noise and the, you know, using against your will, that just finding yourself on autopilot using.
I guess one thing for people listening is how does it feel on your way to your first NA meeting? How did that feel for you?
Mate, I was so broken.
Yeah.
I didn't savor the moment.
Yeah.
We'll say that. You know, I asked this guy a couple of questions. He was just like totally cool, positive, chilled, and was just like, yeah, it might be for you, might not, you know. he's just like, just give it a go, cup of tea, be fine. So yeah, I went into the meeting, anxiety. Fucking the first meeting I went to is our meeting, isn't it? You know, where
I was there,
me,
I think.
yeah. Well, like the room's that small, your knees touch, don't they?
And it's boiling.
And it's boiling. And I was like, fuck. And
The hottest place on earth.
Yeah, I wish I'd asked more questions because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was like, what? So I got a cup of tea, and someone gives me a bit of paper and says, "Oh, just read this when I give you the nod." And I was like, "Oh yeah, good one." And like the bloke who brought me was like, "Yeah." And I genuinely thought they were joking. So I was like, "All right." So I sort of was reading it in my head while I was sat there, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? Step 1, something or other. Step 2, something or other. Fuck knows." And then, yeah, like I said, so I read it, and now it's a rolling joke at that meeting. I read that same reading every time I go to that meeting, which is nice. I like that, and it's good fun. The message I got was, you're not alone. All those things you've felt, all those things you've seen, all those ways you've tried to fix it, fit in, try and feel normal. Other people have done it. Other people have done it to the point that you've done it too.
And I guess that's part of, it's looking for the similarities and not the differences in the rooms.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You can find that if you're looking for a...
Yeah. And yeah, definitely. And that's that surrender thing, isn't it? When there's no other way. And yeah, if I hadn't been taken to that meeting, I wouldn't be here. I left there.
Did you feel
baffled.
The shift after the first meeting?
I didn't, but the guy who took me, I was like, I've never met anyone like that.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody like that who has that ability to be able to explain things, and he obviously shared in the meeting as well. And that inner peace, I could see he had what I wanted. I was like, that is what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
That's what I fucking want, is just to be. But, his story was my story. They're remarkably similar.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, there must be, that's proof.
Yeah.
That's proof. And again, that's how my brain works. Fuck, if you can show me something,
yeah,
that's how it works. Fuck, I'll do it.
Yeah.
No one's ever fucking done that, So, I saw something in him that I wanted.
And since coming into the rooms, let's talk about that the process of early recovery and how that was for you to, feeling that big shift that a lot of people do once they keep coming back to these meetings. And,
yeah,
how's that been for you?
Amazing. So I didn't use after that. I was talking about the analogy of that spinning thing. My coin was about to drop through the hole. There was no option for me to use again. Once I'd been highlighted that, and once I'd seen what I'd seen, it removed, the 12 steps. So they remove your, the wanting to use. I've had that since, but I didn't want immediately after that. I was like, yeah, I do want a bit of that. I felt a little bit of belonging. I felt a little bit of hope. The light was relit ever so slightly. My coin started to reverse and just ever so slowly come away from that black hole. And yeah, after that meeting, I felt hope. And, a huge part of it is just down to that guy.
Yeah.
Who just showed me for absolutely no reason all of the hope, nourishment, love, and everything I could never show myself a real example. And that guy is my sponsor now. And he continues to save my life on a daily basis.
That's great.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, mate.
You know, and then so I guess like since coming into having that awareness now, you've been in recovery for
15, 16 months.
Yeah, so nearly a year and a half. I guess like, you know, what are the things that haven't magically gotten better as such, you know, that you're still working on, you know, because it's not everyone's journey in recovery isn't the same. Everyone's got their own individual journey, you know. What are the struggles you've had with recovery?
Yeah, being with myself is still very hard. That will come, you know, I've moved with it, definitely, but you know, still very hard. What else hasn't worked? There's a lot of... So I haven't finished the steps because I've been doing... I mean, this is an excuse now, but everyone does the steps at their own rate. I'm doing a lot of work outside of the 12 steps. I believe in the 12 steps. The 12 steps saved my life. I'll always be part of that. It's amazing. I cannot wait for the next chapter of that. But I found the bigger movements have come from the therapy, which a 12-step program has allowed me to do. Because if I'd have gone into therapy using or been in the mindset I was before coming into recovery, none of it would have gone in. None of it would have worked. I am 100% sure of that. It's only now that I have that clear mind, that I have that concept of self-worth, that, you know, I'm able to look inwards. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like that's part of that self-awareness you get in recovery, isn't it? It's like, what can you understand now that you had no idea about before? You know, it's quite a shift in mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, just being able to talk, you know, how long have I been talking? A lot, the longest I've ever talked in my life.
3 days.
which is mental. So yeah, early recovery was tricky. I had a great sponsor around me. I was going to multiple fellowships, or, you know, a couple of fellowships. Soon sort of realised, and of course, you know, my sponsor said this kind of like day dot, you know, he said, you know, NA is where he found his home because it's sort of addiction based rather than substance based, I guess, or behaviour based. So it kind of covers all of it. It's sort of everywhere, and you can work it all. You can work all of the A's through one, or at the same time. You know, they're all much of a muchness, really. So yeah, and I'm still in early recovery, and it is still difficult. You know, I have the battles in my head with the committee every day. You know, I still have the conversation every single morning where my brain's like, yeah, but you'll be able to use again one day. You know, you'll be fit. And then every day I say, not today.
Yeah.
And I surrender again. You know, then I've learned through the 12-step program that, and counselling, actually, to be fair, that I've kind of come out of my body into my head, they sort of call it. I'm in the counselling world, but, you know, hence why a lot of the noise for me. And I'm getting back into my body with the self-care, the self-worth acknowledgement, you know, the daily routine of practicing reading the readings from the fellowship, praying to what I believe. You know, I call it God. It's not the God in the sense of Christian God, but it is just something out there, the universe, the ether. I don't know what it is, but there's something that I believe now that there is out there that I can hand my will over to. Because again, I've learned when I'm steering the ship, we end up in pretty rough waters.
And I guess for, you know, what are the biggest tools that you kind of do go to keep you regulated and grounded in the tricky times?
Yeah, so every day I wake up, morning routine. Morning routine to me is really, really important. I know when I don't do it, you know, sometimes you just can't. Life goes on. Life keeps coming. So before I even get out of bed, I do gratitude. I put myself into like a gratitude headspace, as I like to refer to it. So, you know, I say thanks for just being in a warm bed with a soft pillow and a duvet and a roof over my head, my children being well, you know, whatever it is. I don't go for my phone. That I don't put myself in that dopamine state when I wake up, that hunting headspace, because that's where my brain wants to go. It wants me to go into what's next, more. And then, and when I'm in, as soon as I'm in it, I know, and then I've got to reset myself and whatever. So I try not to start that. If I can do wake up, gratitude, swing my legs out of bed, put my feet on the floor, get a drink, do one of the readings, and then maybe have a coffee or, you know, say something spiritual like green tea. That's bullshit. That sets my day up how I need it to be set up. And that grounds me massively. Like the difference when I don't do that, it's really noticeable. That's one of the main things I've taken from this is that the mind state. Because as soon as I wake up, I want to just go into ignore myself, ignore phone, coffee. I don't have to deal with myself. Oh, I've got emails to do. I've got this, that, the other. When I excuse me.
I think those patterns from childhood become so deeply ingrained. You know, it's not an overnight thing, is it? It's, you know, it's lifelong for some people. Is trying to unravel those patterns.
Yeah. And if
defaults.
if I stop, it goes straight back. It does. When I come into recovery, we've chatted about it before, haven't we? You know, I got rid of my phone because I didn't go into treatment. You know, I took myself out of society. I dropped all my clients, got rid of my phone, started doing counselling, started doing 12 steps, you know, all this sort of thing. I kind of created my sort of self a little bit of a treatment. And the phone thing for me is massive, because dopamine, you know, as we've come to understand, you know, dopamine is the primordial chemical in our bodies that drives us to hunt and, you know, keeps us in food and in whatever. But the society and lifestyle we all lead now, it also keeps us in the rest of all this stuff, which is not the best.
The pursuit of more.
The pursuit of more to numb. Yeah, just like our song. So, yeah, I do that. I have 3 alarms set on my phone for checking alarms. I have 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night. And what I do is it's a check-in love alarm, which people think's weird when it comes up on my phone. They're like, what? And I just check in with myself. Sometimes it's very brief. Sometimes it's like, am I all right? I'm all right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, you know, quite in depth, depending on who I'm with, what I'm doing. The one at 10 o'clock in the morning is like, or I deemed, okay, like look at your phone now, but it doesn't always work out like that. The 2 o'clock one is, after lunch. And then the 10 o'clock one should be like, check in, and then, you should probably be getting to bed, mate, because I have this thing where I just don't sleep.
Yeah.
Don't know where it came from. A mixture of a lot of things, I think, nightmares and such like. But yeah, I don't think I've slept for about 10 years.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I'll share my
Sleep debt, mate. Yeah, just
chips away.
Yeah. And so I could quite easily just stay up until, 3 o'clock in the morning, doom scrolling. But yeah, don't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Unless I'm doom scrolling my emails.
Yeah. And I guess that's like who do you feel like you are now, or you're working towards, as you're slowly reducing those coping mechanisms and addictions,
Yeah. So the aim is, and this is something I always sort of rejected as a child, because, I come from an alternative background.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see a lot of the weight in a lot of it now. So the person the person I'm becoming is open-minded to everything, which includes spirituality and the different sides of that, other people's opinions. That's a big one. A well-centered person who has dealt with a lot of their stuff, has found another way, and wants to give that back by helping other people do the same so they don't have to suffer like I did.
And so what would, on that, one of the last questions that I have written down is, what would you say to anyone who's listening who is feeling like they're struggling today?
You're not alone. Yeah, asking for help is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I've only done it twice, I think. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't have anybody to reach out to, or you don't feel like you can, or there's no other way, reach out to us. We will help you. There's another way. I cannot believe, I kind of feel like I've wasted so much of my life to get here. But if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have got here. So yeah, if you're hearing this message and you can identify there is another way, get in contact, reach out for help, try some meetings. Yeah, and if all else fails, contact us. We'll signpost you.
Yeah.
And we love you.
We do. Yeah. And, is there anything else you want to say on that? Or should we, we're happy to wrap it up? It's been quite an emotional share.
Yeah, mate. I've talked for plenty long enough. If someone's listened along for this long, thank you. Thank you for hearing me and my story. Yeah, I'll give my jaw a rest for a bit.
Well, mate, it's been amazing to hear you, and I'm sure people listening are going to be able to resonate with that. We all have our struggles in different ways, and hopefully there is that hope coming from that message. You have found a different way to live, and in early recovery, the time that I've had around you, I've seen a shift. And I'm starting to see, that the guy that you are and that you're becoming. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? Seeing that in someone.
Yeah.
Grateful to be a part of that journey, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and likewise, dude.
Yeah.
Always.
All right, guys.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much. I think next episode is your turn in the hot seat, mate.
Come on down.
Well, at least you get a bit more notice than sort of like 10 minutes before we start.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks everyone for listening along, whatever platform you're on. I don't know, like, subscribe, whatever they say.
Yeah.
Share this with friends and pass it round. And yeah, hopefully see
We'd
you
love
next
to
time.
hear from you. Obviously, we're quite early to podcasting. Any feedback,
Yeah.
throw it our way, man.
Yeah, you say quite a lot.
you know.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Take care. Bye, man.
More to take, more to chase, more to numb, more to escape. More screens, more pills, more noise, more thrill. We wanted more. We lost ourselves. We paid the cost. The deeper we delve, always more. Never enough. Always more. Never enough. Until it breaks, or you do. Until it breaks, all you do.